Right, Odooers. Hello, everybody, and welcome to another Odoo webinar. We are streaming live from the Odoo office here in Nairobi, Kenya, and we are glad to have you join us. And we've got an exciting session planned for you today. So, without further ado, let's get right into it and allow me to introduce the topic for today. So today we're going to be diving into the intricacies of inventory valuation in Odoo, focusing on the Anglo-Saxon accounting method while looking at the impact on the cost of goods sold account. So I'm going to go next and introduce myself. My name is Mujtaba, and I'm a business analyst here at Odoo. My role is to analyze clients' needs and provide tailored Odoo solutions for the businesses. Within the Odoo ecosystem, business analysts are also responsible for helping to improve the product by providing valuable feedback from the project implementations which we do. We interact with so many other industries and businesses out there, and that helps us to help improve the product as well. I'm passionate about how Odoo can revolutionize the way you do your business, and I'm going to share that passion with you today. So let's see what I have prepared for you today using the brief agenda. So we're going to start off by first introducing Odoo and what sets it apart from other business applications out there. Next, we'll then look at the key important concepts surrounding today's webinar topic. Third, we're going to dive into our Odoo database, and we're going to follow through a relatable use case, which is going to help us look at the Anglo-Saxon accounting setup. And then lastly, we're going to have a Q&A session. So please feel free to drop your questions in the live chat, and let's make this an interactive webinar. So, what is Odoo? If I was to explain this masterpiece of a software, I would put it in three main sentences. It's an all-in-one system, an easy-to-use platform, and of course, at the end of the day, it's an awesome software. But to be more elaborate, Odoo is a suite of business applications that integrates your business operations into a comprehensive solution. Okay, so we have all these applications which we can offer you, from sales to CRM to your operational requirements like inventory management, procurement, manufacturing, and accounting. We also have a marketing suite, a suite to help you with your e-commerce operations, including your website builder as well. So, put into perspective, you see on your left, we have a particular analogy of having all the different systems which a common business would use. For example, WordPress for your website, Salesforce for your CRM, you have HubSpot for maybe your sales, QuickBooks for accounting, and all those applications segregated but working for a business. However, we'd like to now propose an all-in-one solution whereby you have all those operations integrated under one platform. With that, you are able to manage your data efficiently. You can manage accountability from your employees or your users, and of course have an efficient experience, which is going to be time efficient as well. So let's look at now some numbers which we have, because numbers don't lie, of course. So Odoo indeed has a global presence with 19 offices worldwide at the moment. We boast a partner community, a partner network of around 5,000 official partners who are actively implementing Odoo for different clients out there. And of course, to top it off, our 12 million and counting happy users. So, with all these benefits and so much more, you can be rest assured that Odoo is the right choice for a business, and it's going to help you scale efficiently as you go on. So, with that being said, let's now look at the key concepts which we are going to be looking at in this webinar. The first thing we're going to look at is the Anglo-Saxon accounting method, also known as the cost of sales method. And this recognizes expenses when the goods are sold rather than when they are purchased. In contrast, we have the continental accounting method, which is also called the purchase method, which recognizes expenses at the time of purchase, regardless of when the items are going to be sold. Okay. The next thing we're going to look at is the valuation methods in Odoo, or the costing methods, which we call. So first of all, we have the FIFO method, which is the first in, first out. So this costing method tracks the item costs in real time. Okay, so what do we mean by that? It assigns the oldest purchase price to each cell until the entire batch of that item is sold. As new inventory arrives, the cost is updated based on the new lot price. Okay. We then have a second costing method, which is called the average costing, or some of you may call it the weighted average costing. Over here, this calculates the cost of goods sold based on the average cost of all inventory items available during that period. With this costing method, inventory valuation is dynamic and constantly adjusts based on the purchase price of the products. So when we are going to be looking at the demo, we will see how all these are playing out. And lastly, of course, we have the automatic accounting feature in Odoo, whereby Odoo automates the accounting entries for your inventory transactions, ensuring accurate and real-time financial reporting. This includes automatic journal entries for purchases, sales, and inventory adjustments. So let us now look at the flow from a use case perspective. So to make our demo relatable, we'll use a fictional business called TechWeb Distributors. And TechWeb is an IT hardware distributor that procures IT equipment and supplies it to its retailers. So over here, they receive shipments of various IT equipment such as laptops, monitors, and accessories. They also bundle some of these items into convenient kits such as like a home office setup kit to offer value-added packages to their customers. Now, we're going to look at it from Alex's point of view, who is going to be managing our inventory and accounting processes here at TechWave. So we'll follow Alex as he navigates through the procurement, receiving, billing, sales, delivery, and all those different processes in Odoo, focusing on how he's actually able to manage his costs with the Anglo-Saxon accounting method. So, with all that being said, let us now look at the demo itself, and we're going to jump right into an Odoo database. Now, while we are here, and before I proceed with the actual demo, I would like to first show you where you can actually activate the Anglo-Saxon method in Odoo, because you could say that some of the businesses would want the continental and you don't want that activated. So the first thing to do is to head over to the settings application, and under the settings we need to go to the accounting on your right. So while you're here, make sure you go all the way down, and when you're going to see the Anglo-Saxon accounting. So at the moment, as you can see, I've activated this, and at the same time I have activated automatic accounting. Okay, so over here you are able to manage the default accounts which are going to be affected when you register the different inventory transactions. So while this has been activated, let us now proceed with the actual flow itself. Okay, sorry about that. Let me just change the scene to the demo. Right. So apologies for the technical hitch which we have over here. Let me dive right into the settings application once more. Apologies for that. So what I was saying is, while we are in the settings application, we need to go over to the accounting on your left and head straight to the bottom where we have the stock valuation section and the bank and cash, because this is where we have the Anglo-Saxon accounting setting. Okay, so while we're here, of course, at the moment I've activated it for our demo, and we also need to have the automatic accounting activated, as I mentioned. So under here, we can see that there are some default accounts which Odoo has already assigned. Now, depending on your chart of accounts, of course, you will be able to set these accounts over here, and then proceed with all your transactions accordingly. So with these two main configurations activated, let us now proceed with the demo itself. Now, Alex is going to start today's process by actually procuring some of the items which he has in his catalog. So I'll start off from the purchase application, and we're going to create a new purchase order. So in Odoo, of course, the purchase process starts from the RFQ stage, which we call the request for quotation. He's going to select his supplier. in this case it's tech supplier, and then we proceed to add all our products. So we're going to have a laptop, the monitor, and the keyboard and mouse combo. Now, one of these products, specifically the monitor, I have set it to the FIFO costing method. So the goal here is to see how these costs are then going to change over time when we sell and when we make other procurements for the same item. But the rest have been set up to the average costing. So we're going to see as well how this cost is being registered in Odoo. Okay, so I'm going to add some quantities here. I'm just going to add a few. And of course, we need to add a unit price. So for the laptop, we can have maybe 5,000. He buys it, it's very cheap. For the monitor, it could be just 1,000 shillings. And for the keyboard and mouse, it could be 500. So this is, of course, the unit price. And then you can see the total price over here. So let's save and confirm the order so that we can now receive these items in our stock. Okay, so the moment I confirm, we see that we have a receipt operation, which I'm going to now navigate to. And we can see that we effectively, we're going to receive all the items, all the quantities in our stock. And right at this point, we're going to see that there's going to be some valuation entries. Okay, so let me proceed and validate. Now, once I validated this, we see that we have a valuation button indicating that we have some automated entries which have been created in the background. Okay, so I'm going to take into perspective one entry because the rest usually are the same. So I'm going to open it directly from here. And we can see that we have a stock interim received account which has been credited and the stock account has been debited. So that means that our stock value has increased and we have the interim account has been credited. Now, to explain what the interim accounts are, these are basically holding accounts before we actually bill or invoice our clients. So on the purchase side, we'll have the received, and on the delivery side or on the sales side, we're going to have the delivered. Okay, so while we have already received these items in our stock, that means our balance sheet should have an impact. So I'm going to navigate to the accounting module and I'm going to open the balance sheet. And we can see here that we have an inventory entry here. So our stock value at the moment is 65,000 because we bought all those items, which is the same if we go back and see this amount here. Okay, so this is how the automatic accounting is playing its part. So now that we have stock and we have quantities in our inventory, we're going to proceed to create the bill. So this is because now Alex is supposed to pay for these items. And our key focus here is to look at the impact of the different accounts, of course. So we see that we have the stock interim received, which has been debited. So that means once we confirm, the entries on the balance sheet should of course be offset. Remember, these are just holding accounts and ideally we should not have any value contained in them. Okay, and of course we have the creditors control account, which is holding the value before the payment is actually made. So I'm going to enter the bill date, which is just today's date, and proceed and confirm. Now, as you can see from here, that we have not registered any expense yet. So whenever you want to check which accounts or where your values have been affected, you should come under the general items and see all the accounts which have been impacted. At the moment, we don't have any cost of sale or expense account. So we can verify that we are in the Anglo-Saxon accounting method. Okay, right. So if we go over to the balance sheet again, you can see that the stock interim now has no value and we only have a value in our stock account. Okay, so this is basically holding the entire value of our stock. Right. So now that we have these items in our stock, let's look at the cost which has been registered on the product itself. So I'm going to open the laptop product directly from here and we can see that yes, we have a cost per unit of 5,000 shillings. If we go back and look at the monitor, we see that its effective cost has been registered as well. Okay. Now I'm going to proceed and now make a cell for these items. Okay. So let's go ahead and start off from the quotation stage. And Alex now has received an order for laptops and monitors, which he has to deliver. So we have the tech retailer, and I'm going to add a product over here, which is going to be a laptop and monitor. So at the moment we have 10 in stock. So let's say he's going to deliver 5 of these, and for the monitor, he's going to deliver 5 of these as well. Of course, we want to add some margin. So let's say you're going to put it at 10,000, and the monitor, we can put it at around 5,000. Okay, so that is basically now his selling price. Then I'm going to save it, and we'll proceed to create the sales order. So when we create the sales order, that means that we are ready to now deliver these items to our customers. So I'm going to proceed to the delivery and go ahead and validate this. So of course, Odoo is going to first, check if the availability is there and reserve these items. So I'm going to go ahead and validate, and we see that we have a valuation entry created as well over here. So clicking on the valuation, we see that now instead of the positive which we had on the purchase, we have a negative entry, which means that our stock value in our accounts has reduced. Okay, so if I go back to my balance sheet again and refresh it, we see that of course we have something in our delivered and our stock value has reduced. So the entry here is going to be relatable to the one we saw in the purchase side when we received. So our stock has been credited and our stock entry delivered debited, which of course is going to be offset when we register or make the invoice. So while on the sales again, you can see that I can create an invoice directly from here. Okay, so I'm going to create an invoice. And again, our focus here is on the journal items. So at the moment, before you post the invoice, we see that of course we have an income type of account which has been credited for both the items, and then we have of course a receivable account which has been debited. Okay, so I'm going to proceed to confirm and notice what is going to happen to our journal items over here. So the moment I confirm, we see that now more accounts have been added automatically. Okay, so we can effectively see that the cost of sales has been registered now, and we have actually marked it as an expense. Okay, so at this point, our key report to check is of course the profit and loss statement. So I'm going to navigate back to our reporting. Over here, of course, we see that the interim delivered is disappeared. And for our reporting, let's look at the profit and loss statement. And we can now see that we have a cost of sales which we have incurred in this part of our operating costs. And also we can see the profit which we have so far incurred. So in a nutshell, basically, this is how we expected the flow to be achieved, and we expect Odoo to actually register the costs at the time of invoicing. Now, aside from this, I want to also show you the impact on the FIFO product when we are now going to make the purchase once more. So let's say Alex has a bigger order and he needs to replenish his stock. So he needs to make the purchase order again. So I'm going to go back to the purchase now, create a new RFQ. It could be to the same supplier, and we will add the products. Now, I want to show you also the average costing and how it's going to happen. So we will select this time the laptop and the monitor. Okay, so he receives maybe just 2 more of each. And this time he is receiving it at a high amount. Maybe the price is inflated. So for this, you can receive it at 5,500. And for the monitor, he received it at, let's say, 2,000. So we will save again and proceed with the usual flow. I can go and now receive my products. and we will proceed to validate. So, of course, we have the valuation entries at the respective costs which we've incurred. But what you want to look at is now how the cost is looking like on the product side. So I'm going to open the laptop first. And you can see that, of course, Odoo has already calculated the average cost. So whenever we sell, this is the cost which is going to be incurred. But let's look at now the monitor itself. And we can see here that, yes, it is FIFO, but for displaying purposes, Odoo has kind of calculated the average cost at the moment. Okay, so whatever we have in stock and at whatever price we have received, Odoo has effectively shown you an average cost over here. But the key item here which you want to see is, of course, which cost is actually going to be applied when we make the sell. Okay, so just to recap a little bit, we see that we first added the monitor for 1,000 each, and then we have the second purchase order where we receive the monitor at 2,000. So let's see now when we make the sell for all the two lots, what cost or how is it going to register it. So let's create a new quotation. Here's the new order to retailer number 2, and we are going to add these two items. And right now we will combine both these lots. Okay, so we will just put, let's say, 6 over here, and for the monitor we are going to be delivering all 7 of them. Okay, I'm going to put the markup here again, and same thing for the monitor. We can see around 7,000. Proceed to save, and we are going to confirm the order. So we're going to proceed to validate, and looking at our valuation, we already see that Odoo has combined the cost of the monitor. Okay, so both have now been applied effectively. Now let us go back and create the invoice. So again, our focus here is on the journal items, and once we confirm, we can also see what cost has been applied to our items. So this is basically how the automatic accounting works in Odoo. We can see that the accounts have been automatically applied, and from the inventory side as well. Okay, and we can see the correct costs which have been registered. So again, depending on your business and how you'd like to do the costing, you can select which one can apply to you. Of course, you can see the correct results. So this was basically the goal here was to understand how the FIFO costing is being applied, and including the average cost as well. So if I go to the monitor product now, okay, we can still see that there is an average cost, but when now you're going to be selling, that the correct cost which you bought it at, or for the next lot, that is what is going to be applied. Okay, so with that being said, there is one more flow which I want to show you guys today, which is where, imagine when Alex is going to have a combination of products and he wants to sell it as a kit. Okay, so Odoo kits are basically configured on the manufacturing side, and we're going to proceed by creating this quotation. Okay, so he has an order for one home office setup kit, and I'm going to add this product here. I'm going to select it here, save my order right now, and let's see. So he probably sells the entire kit in maybe 20,000. And let's go ahead and save, and I'm going to confirm this order. So when we have a product like this, or a kit, or a product which is combining multiple or several other items, when we proceed to the delivery, we see that it is actually the components itself which are going to be delivered, and this is where the costing is going to be done. So I noticed that the monitor is lacking in stock. So what I'm going to do is immediately raise a procurement order, and let me just receive it very quickly in stock. So I'm going to add the monitor here, and maybe we received it at a higher price again. Save, and let me proceed. I'll confirm the order and proceed to receive this item. Let's go ahead and validate, and also create the bill for it. Let's add the billing date and confirm. So once we go back to the sales application and to the quotation to the order which we created, which is right here. On our delivery, we should now see that automatically the reservations have been made for the missing items. So let us proceed to validate. And we will see that we now have valuation entries for the 3 items. So the goal here is to see how Odoo is transferring the cost from the components to the final product. Okay, now this can work in several different scenarios. For example, if you have a restaurant, this could work perfectly in that case as well. Okay, so I'm going to proceed to create the invoice. I will create it again, and under the journal items, I'll proceed to, of course, confirm so that we can see the accounting impact. So here, we now register it all under one cost of sales account for this particular invoice. So in conclusion, we can now see that how the costs have been transferred over to the cost of sales account from the components which we had. Okay, so this basically brings us to the end of the demonstration flow which I had prepared. And we have seen how the Anglo-Saxon accounting has taken into effect on the cost of goods sold account. So that account could be your expense account, or it could be a cost of sales account which you're calling it. Okay, it depends on how, of course, you are having your accounting setup. Okay, one more thing which I can show you guys is the configuration for the products. Okay, so Odoo manages a certain level of configuration from the product category side. Now, you could have accounts specifically on the products, which I can show you, but on a larger scale or on a general scale, Odoo is going to have those configurations for the categories. So, on a specific category, for example, I had created the AVCO category. We can see that we have specific accounting properties for the income and expense account. So you could have, different accounts if you want, maybe for the different categories. So it could be an income account for a category or a separate one for various categories if you have. And of course, we have the expense account, which can also be a cost of revenue type of account. Okay. On your right, we have the different parameters for the inventory valuation. For example, we have the costing method, which you can specify right from here. So we have the first average cost and the first in, first out. I focused on this because usually those are the most popular ones for when you want to do automated valuations. And then of course we have the type of inventory valuation, which you select from here, and the specific stock accounts. So those input and output accounts that you are seeing on the settings, they can be applied over here as well in a more specific manner. So this is the configuration for the FIFO category. So whenever you are going to be now trying to, set up those items, make sure you're careful and you have these settings on the specific categories. So the same thing applies on the FIFO category as well, where we can specify the costing method as the first in, first out. Okay. So, guys, this brings us to the end of this demo. I hope it was quite informative, and I'm sure you learned something new over here for those who are existing Odooers or for those who are new Odooers as well. So let us now look at the potential questions which you have received, and I'm going to move back. I'm going to look at the different questions which we have. So we have a question here. Can you show how it will impact on inventory adjustment? Right. Let us have a look at that flow. And the second option, the second question is a real-time accounting option also suitable for companies that process a lot of orders? Or does this have a bad impact on the performance of the order system? So I'm going to start off with Jell's question. Is it the real-time accounting option also suitable for companies that, yes, of course it is suitable. Like we said, of course you're going to have immediate inventory updates, and you can see the different transactions, accordingly with the dates and all the details which you require. So let us look at the second question. Can you show how it will impact on the inventory adjustment? Right. So let me go back to my database. So we shall proceed with the inventory adjustment, which you are supposed to do from the operation side of the inventory application and under the physical inventory. Okay, so this is where we can add items to our stock, and I'm going to create a new item. So let's say we have some items in our stock which you want to add. Maybe it's the opening balance. I'm going to click on the laptop, and maybe I counted 15 more in my stock. Okay, so I'm going to apply. Now, before I should have applied, I want to show you guys one thing. Okay, so the accounts which I showed you under the product categories, okay, these are the accounts which are basically going to take into effect. Okay, so whenever you're receiving items in your stock, the stock input account is going to be affected. Okay, so going back to our inventory adjustment which we just did, let us look at the history of it. We see here, of course, the quantity has been updated, but if we go back to our journal entries, we can see that there's an entry automatically created, and yes, the interim received account has been credited and the stock has been debited. Now, depending on the accounting policies, of course, like I mentioned, the interim accounts should effectively be, reset to zero. So you could, add another entry to offset it with another account, so that your balance sheet is always reading the stock amount. Okay, so I hope, Trikesh, I have answered your question. Does Odoo support multiple or multi-warehouse? Yes, of course it does. And we're going to go over to the inventory module. Under the configuration, you can see we have the warehouses menu, and you can add. So by default, when you start using Odoo, the database is going to have just the default warehouse, which is going to create for you. But you can have as many as you want by simply clicking on the new button here. Okay. So we can set up the name of the warehouse. It could be warehouse number 2, and simply just go ahead and save it. Of course, just provide a short description so that you can identify it with your inventory transactions. Okay, and you can go ahead and save it. And that is how basically you can have multiple warehouses. How to enter starting inventory valuation when importing existing stock? Good question. So when you have all your opening balances for your stock, you want to make sure that before you enter those stocks into your database via the physical inventory menu item, you need to make sure that you have a cost price on your product. Okay, so for example, if I create a new product, let's say it's maybe speakers. Okay, and for this, I have some existing stock which I want to bring in. So before you proceed to add those stocks with the automatic accounting, make sure you have a cost price set to them. So the current cost price, it could be the average or the current FIFO price. You need to configure it over here. So let's say you're bringing the speakers in at 1,000 shillings per unit. You can set it up over here and then go back to operations, physical inventory, count your stock. Maybe you have a stock and create a new entry for the speakers. Now, relating to the second warehouse which we created, so if you have multiple locations, you can specify the different location you want this product in. Okay, so you can select them from here. At the moment, we'll just store them to the default warehouse. I'm going to count 5 speakers in my stock, and I'm going to apply it. Okay, let me just do a quick refresh. And right, so going back to my products for the speakers, I now have them in stock. Let's see our journal entry on the accounting side. We have a journal entry here, and it's right here, the product quantity updated. So effectively now we have these. So this is for the laptop. Let me just check the category which I set. So my apologies for that. At the moment I had set up to the old category, but I'm just going to put it to now the average category. So once you do that, again, let's look at our journal entries. And we can see that the entry has been added, and Odoo automatically also gives you a description of this entry. So due to a change of product category, the costing method has changed from standard to average, and the cost has been added in your balance sheet. Okay, so to answer your question, the impact on interim receipt, that there is no bill and how it will be settled. So you can then create a manual journal entry. You create a new entry from here, and you can then, offset these accounts by setting up the relevant debit and credit account. And that way your interim account is going to go back to 0. And of course, again, it depends on your accounting setup right now. So maybe you want to have an opposite effect on the capital account, because it's like an investment you have added. It all depends on how your accounting has been set up. Okay. Right. If I see another question, what if you receive a product and its price is wrong? How to correct it if the stock valuation is in AVCO? Good question. So there are 2 ways of doing that. Okay. We can go back to the inventory, to products. So let's say, remember I have my laptop as the average costing category. We say that, after we received, maybe it's wrong and I want to correct it. Maybe it's not supposed to be 5,000 at the moment. And my total average cost, I want it to be, let's say, 6,000, for example. So I'm going to come here and edit it. And let's proceed to save it. Now, when you make this change, okay, when you make this change on the product cost, there is a counter journal entry which has been created as well. And let us look at the journal entry which has been created and what accounts have been affected. So going back to accounting, under the journal entries, we have another entry which has been created here. So we see here that our cost of sales has been impacted. Okay, so automatically, of course, our stock value has increased. Remember, I increased the amount from 5,100 to 6,000 shillings. Okay, and with that, my cost has been impacted as well. So this will going to have a direct impact on your profit and loss account also. Okay, so again, this is the default way in which Odoo is doing it. If you are doing it in a different way, you can then come here and specify that which account should effectively be affected over here. Okay, so I believe we've covered all the questions, and this should effectively mark the end of our session today. Thank you so much for joining us today. I hope you have benefited from this, and have a good day ahead.